Honey, I'm home. Rebecca's voice rang through their suburban Chicago townhouse with an excitement Michael hadn't heard in months. He looked up from his laptop where he'd been reviewing engineering blueprints for tomorrow's client meeting. Hey babe, how was your day? Michael closed the laptop and walked toward the kitchen where Rebecca was setting down bags from Whole Foods, champagne bottle clearly visible. Michael, you're not going to believe this. Rebecca's eyes sparkled as she turned to face him, her blonde hair still perfectly styled despite the October wind. Sit down. I have news. Michael raised an eyebrow. Should I be worried or excited? Excited. Richard called me into his office this afternoon. She pulled out the champagne and 2 wine glasses. I got the promotion. Senior Vice President of Client Development. Can you believe it? Michael's jaw dropped. Rebecca had only been at Sterling and Associates for 7 months. Wait, what? SVP? But you just started there after New Year's. I know. Rebecca was already working on the champagne cork. Richard said my performance has been exceptional. The Morrison account alone brought in $2.4 million in revenue. Plus the networking events I organized, the client retention strategies I implemented. The cork popped. Honey, this comes with a 40% salary increase. Michael accepted the glass she handed him, still processing. 40%? Rebecca, that's incredible, but 7 months seems fast even for someone as talented as you. Michael Thompson, are you questioning your wife's abilities? Rebecca laughed, but there was an edge to it. You should be celebrating with me. With my new salary, we can finally start looking at houses in Lincoln Park instead of this cramped townhouse. I love this place. We picked it together. Michael took a sip of champagne. And I'm not questioning your abilities. You're brilliant. It's just that Sterling and Associates has been around for 30 years. Usually promotions take time. Rebecca's smile faltered slightly. Richard said I bring a fresh perspective the company needs. Sometimes talent gets recognized quickly when it's the right fit. That evening, as they lay in bed, Michael couldn't shake a nagging feeling. Rebecca was scrolling through her phone, probably checking work emails as she did every night now. Babe, remember when we used to talk about starting a family? With this promotion, maybe it's time to seriously consider it. Rebecca didn't look up from her phone. Michael, I literally just got promoted today. This is my moment to really establish myself. Richard mentioned there might be opportunities to open a West Coast office. Can you imagine me running the Los Angeles branch? What about Chicago? What about us? Us? Michael, this is about us. About our future. She finally set down her phone. Look, let's revisit the family thing next year. Right now I need to focus. 3 weeks later, Michael realized Rebecca's focus meant 12-hour days, weekend work sessions, and business dinners that never seemed to include him. He was heating up leftover pizza alone on a Friday night when his phone buzzed. Sorry honey, client emergency. Going to be very late. Don't wait up. Love you. Michael stared at the message. This was the 4th client emergency this month. He tried calling back, but it went straight to voicemail. The pattern continued through November. Rebecca would leave before Michael woke up and return after he'd fallen asleep. When he complained, she reminded him about the Los Angeles opportunity and how important it was to make a good impression. Richard has been mentoring me personally, she said one rare morning when they had breakfast together. He's teaching me about executive presence, strategic thinking. You know he went to Wharton, right? He's incredibly successful. I'm sure he is, Michael replied, noticing how Rebecca's face lit up when she mentioned her boss. Maybe I should meet this Richard sometime. You talk about him constantly. Oh, you will. The company Christmas party is next month. It's at the Palmer House downtown. Very elegant affair. The Christmas party was indeed elegant. The Palmer House's grand ballroom was decorated with crystal chandeliers and towering Christmas trees. Michael felt underdressed in his department store suit among the sea of designer clothing and expensive jewelry. "There's Richard," Rebecca pointed across the room to a distinguished man in his early 50s, silver hair perfectly styled, speaking with a group of executives. "Come on, I'll introduce you." As they approached, Richard Sterling turned and his eyes immediately found Rebecca. "Rebecca, you look absolutely stunning tonight." His gaze lingered on her red dress before acknowledging Michael. "And you must be the husband I've heard so much about." "Michael Thompson." Michael extended his hand. "Nice to finally meet you. Rebecca talks about you quite a bit. All good things, I hope." Richard's handshake was firm, his smile practiced. "Your wife is exceptional, Michael. Truly exceptional. We're lucky to have her." Throughout the evening, Michael watched Richard find excuses to talk to Rebecca, to touch her arm during conversations, to pull her onto the dance floor. Each time Rebecca laughed at Richard's jokes or accepted another dance invitation, Michael felt something cold settling in his stomach. "Excuse me, you're Michael, right?" A brunette woman in her 30s approached him while Rebecca was dancing yet another slow song with Richard. "Yes, and you are?" "Jennifer Walsh, I work in accounting." She glanced toward the dance floor where Richard was holding Rebecca closer than seemed appropriate. "Your wife is very popular with the boss." "They have a good working relationship," Michael said carefully. Jennifer sipped her wine. "Is that what we're calling it?" She looked at Michael with what seemed like pity. "Listen, I probably shouldn't say anything, but Richard has a pattern. This is his third exceptional female employee in 5 years. The last one, Amanda, got promoted twice in 8 months before her husband found out about their weekend trips to Lake Geneva." Michael's blood turned cold. "Weekend trips?" "I handle the travel expense reports." Jennifer's voice was gentle but firm. "Michael, I have a husband too. If someone wasn't telling me what I needed to know, I'd want them to speak up." Michael watched as Richard whispered something in Rebecca's ear that made her throw back her head and laugh. "What are you saying exactly?" "I'm saying be careful. And maybe start paying attention to when Rebecca says she's working late." Jennifer touched his arm briefly. "I'm sorry. I really am." That night, Michael confronted Rebecca in their bedroom. "That was interesting tonight." "What was?" Rebecca was removing her jewelry, avoiding eye contact. "Your boss seems very interested in you." Rebecca laughed, but it sounded forced. "Michael, he's my boss. Of course he's interested in my work performance." "Is that what you call it when he had his hand on your lower back during those slow dances?" "You're being ridiculous. Richard is a mentor. He's helping my career." "By taking you to Lake Geneva?" Rebecca froze, her earring halfway out. "What are you talking about?" Jennifer Walsh mentioned that Richard likes to take his exceptional employees on weekend trips. "Jennifer needs to mind her own business." Rebecca's voice was sharp now. "And you need to trust your wife. Then tell me about Lake Geneva." Rebecca turned to face him, her cheeks flushed. "Fine. Yes, we went to Lake Geneva last month. It was a client retreat. Richard thought it would be good for me to observe how he handles high-level negotiations." "On a weekend?" "Business doesn't stop for weekends, Michael. Not at this level. And you didn't think to mention it? I didn't think you'd understand. You work 9 to 5 at your engineering firm. You don't understand what it takes to succeed in my world." The accusation stung. "My world? When did we start living in separate worlds?" "Ever since I decided I wanted more than this mediocre life we've been living." The words hung in the air between them like a slap. Michael stared at his wife of 6 years, seeing a stranger. "Mediocre," he repeated quietly. Rebecca's expression softened. "Michael, I didn't mean it like that. I just meant I want us to have everything. The house in Lincoln Park, the luxury cars, the ability to travel, to send our future kids to the best schools. Richard is showing me how to achieve that." "And what exactly is Richard asking for in return?" "Nothing. Rebecca's voice cracked. God, Michael, what kind of person do you think I am? But even as she said it, she couldn't meet his eyes. December passed in a haze of tension and unspoken accusations. Rebecca continued her late nights and weekend work sessions. Michael threw himself into his own projects, but found himself checking Rebecca's location on their shared phone plan, noting discrepancies between where she claimed to be and where she actually was. On New Year's Eve, they attended a house party at their friend's place in Naperville. Rebecca spent most of the evening on her phone, stepping outside 4 important calls every hour. Babe, it's almost midnight, Michael said, finding her on the back patio typing furiously on her phone. Just finishing up some year-end reports, she said, not looking up. On New Year's Eve? Success doesn't take holidays, Michael. As the countdown began inside, Michael watched his wife of 6 years prioritize her phone over their marriage. When the clock struck 12 and everyone else was kissing, Rebecca was still typing. Happy New Year, Michael said to her back. She replied, not turning around. January brought new lies and new excuses. Rebecca announced she'd be traveling more for client development. Michael discovered hotel receipts for stays when Rebecca claimed to be working late at the office. When he confronted her, she accused him of being controlling and paranoid. I can't believe you're going through my purse, she said, snatching the Marriott receipt from his hand. I wasn't going through anything. It fell out when you asked me to get your gum. The client dinner ran late, so Richard got me a room rather than have me drive home exhausted. It was a safety precaution. Richard got you a room. The company got me a room. God, Michael, you make everything sound sordid. Did you share the room? That is disgusting and insulting, and I'm not dignifying it with an answer. But again, she couldn't look at him when she said it. The breaking point came on Valentine's Day. Michael had made reservations at Shaw's Crab House, bought flowers, and taken the afternoon off work to prepare a romantic evening. Rebecca texted at 5 p.m. that she had an emergency client meeting and wouldn't be home until late. On Valentine's Day? Michael called her back. Business doesn't stop for Hallmark holidays, Rebecca replied. He could hear restaurant noise in the background. I'll make it up to you this weekend. But through the background noise, Michael clearly heard a man's voice say, Rebecca, our table is ready. Our table. Michael drove to Sterling and Associates' downtown office. Rebecca's car wasn't in the parking lot. The building was dark except for security lighting. He called the office number and got the after-hours recording. His hands shaking, Michael called Jennifer Walsh. Jennifer, it's Michael Thompson. I'm sorry to bother you, but I need to ask you something. Michael, what's wrong? Is there a client meeting tonight? Rebecca said there was an emergency. Jennifer was quiet for a long moment. Michael, there's no client meeting. The office closed at 5 for Valentine's Day. Everyone went home early. Do you know where she might be? Another pause. Michael, I think you need to prepare yourself for what you might find. What do you mean? Richard has a standing reservation at the Peninsula Hotel downtown. Executive Suite. He's been taking Rebecca there since December. Michael felt the world tilt. How do you know this? Because I process his expense reports. And because Amanda, Richard's last protege, told me all about their arrangement before she transferred to Seattle to save her marriage. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry, Michael. I really am. Michael sat in his car outside the Peninsula Hotel for 20 minutes, working up the courage to go inside. The valet recognized Rebecca's BMW in the parking garage and confirmed she'd arrived 2 hours earlier with a distinguished gentleman. $50 to the desk clerk got him a room number. Another $50 to housekeeping got him access to the service elevator. Michael stood outside the door of Suite 2412, listening to the unmistakable sounds coming from within. His marriage was over. Michael knocked loudly on the door. Room service. The sound stopped immediately. Frantic whispering. Then Richard's voice, we didn't order room service. Complimentary champagne for Mr. Sterling, sir. Management's apologies for the noise complaint from the adjacent room. More whispering. Then footsteps approaching the door. Richard opened it wearing the hotel bathrobe, his silver hair disheveled. When he saw Michael, his face went white. What the hell? Michael pushed past him into the suite. Rebecca was sitting up in the king-size bed, sheet pulled up to her chin, her face a mask of horror and shame. Michael, she screamed. What are you doing here? Happy Valentine's Day, sweetheart. Michael's voice was deadly calm. Emergency client meeting, right? Richard stepped forward. Look, Thompson, this is a private matter between consenting adults. You need to leave before I call security. Consenting adults. Michael nodded slowly. Is that what we're calling adultery now? Michael, please, Rebecca's voice was shaking. Let me explain. Explain what? That you've been lying to me for months? That you've been screwing your boss while I sat at home believing you were working late to build our future? It's not what you think. Really? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been prostituting yourself for career advancement. How dare you? Rebecca's shame transformed into fury. How dare you reduce everything I've worked for to that? What should I call it, Rebecca? Love? Romance? Because last I checked, we were married. I was your husband. Not him. Richard cleared his throat. Thompson, I think we can resolve this like civilized people. Rebecca is an exceptional employee, and her performance merits. Shut up. Michael's voice cut through Richard's corporate speak like a blade. Just shut your mouth. You're a predator who uses his position to manipulate women, and everyone in your company knows it. Michael, that's not fair, Rebecca protested. Richard didn't manipulate me. I made my own choices. Yeah? And what choices were those? To betray our marriage? To lie to me every single day? To throw away 6 years for what? A promotion and a salary bump. For our future. Everything I did was for us. For us? Michael laughed bitterly. There is no us, Rebecca. The minute you decided your career was worth more than our marriage, there stopped being an us. Tears were streaming down Rebecca's face now. Michael, I love you. I've always loved you. This thing with Richard, it's just business. It doesn't mean anything. Business. Michael shook his head. You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. I can end it, Rebecca said desperately. I can transfer departments, we can move away from Chicago, start fresh somewhere else. End what? Your job? Your promotion? Your 40% salary increase? Because we both know you're not willing to give that up. Rebecca's silence was answer enough. Michael turned to Richard, who had been quietly getting dressed during their argument. Enjoy her. But understand something, she did it to me, she'll do it to you. When someone better comes along, when she sees a bigger opportunity, you'll be the one sitting at home wondering where your wife really is. We're not married, Richard said stiffly. No, but she is. Or was. Michael looked back at Rebecca one last time. I'll have divorce papers drawn up tomorrow. Don't come home tonight. Don't come home at all. Michael, wait. Rebecca scrambled out of bed, clutching the sheet around her. We can work through this. Marriage counseling, therapy, whatever it takes. You should have thought about that before you decided Richard's mentorship was worth more than our marriage vows. Michael walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Rebecca? You might want to ask Amanda Peterson about Richard's mentorship style. I hear she has some interesting stories about executive development and what happens when the next exceptional employee comes along. Richard's face went pale. Rebecca looked confused. Who's Amanda Peterson? Ask your mentor, Michael said, and walked out. 6 months later, Michael signed the final divorce papers in his lawyer's office in downtown Chicago. Jennifer Walsh had testified about Richard's pattern of behavior with female employees, and Rebecca's adultery made the proceedings straightforward. Rebecca had indeed asked about Amanda Peterson. Amanda had been happy to share her story, how Richard had promised her partnership, how he discarded her when a younger employee caught his attention, how she'd been quietly transferred to Seattle to avoid a harassment lawsuit. Rebecca had confronted Richard, who denied everything and suggested Rebecca was becoming emotionally unstable. Within 2 weeks, she'd been demoted back to her original position. Within a month, Richard was mentoring a new hire named Stephanie, fresh out of Northwestern with an MBA and ambitious dreams. Rebecca had tried to reconcile with Michael, but the trust was gone. She'd moved back in with her parents in suburban Milwaukee, taking a job with a smaller firm for significantly less money than even her original salary at Sterling and Associates. Michael had sold the townhouse and moved to a loft in River North. He'd started dating Jennifer's sister Sarah, a nurse at Northwestern Memorial who appreciated his stability and integrity. As he walked out of the lawyer's office into the bright June sunshine, Michael felt something he hadn't experienced in months: hope. His phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "How did it go? Dinner at Gibson's tonight to celebrate your new beginning?" Michael smiled and typed back, "Perfect. See you at 7. Behind him, his old life was officially over. Ahead of him, a new one was just beginning. And this time, he'd choose someone who understood that success without integrity was just another word for failure. The price of ambition, Michael had learned, was sometimes everything that actually mattered. But the cost of choosing differently, choosing honesty, choosing loyalty, choosing love over advancement, that price was always worth paying. As he walked down LaSalle Street toward his new life, Michael didn't look back.